So you're a new agent to the industry and you're trying to find out what are the steps that you need to take to get those six-figure incomes and more that everybody's talking about. What's the processes? What's the key secrets that are going to move you forward this much faster than the person next to you? Well, in today's video, we're going to go over the 4 main things that you do need to know and focus on being new to the insurance sales industry. The first one is to keep your head down, put your blinders on, and focus on activity. The whole industry is all about activity. You're either paying for the shorter version of what you're going to do, which I'm assuming you can't do right away because most people don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting in the bank looking to build it right away. It's either that or you spend the time and energy to grind and hustle, so to speak, to get the activity going. Think of it as a funnel. Everything's around funnels nowadays with emails and drips and all that other stuff. But it's the same thing with leads. You essentially have what's called a sales funnel, and you're trying to fill that bucket. And when you first start off, you get a little bit and a little bit, and the policies are starting to drip through. There's a couple sales that start to come out the bottom. But if you don't keep the activity up, you're going to lose those pieces. Another great example is if you get busy with other stuff, whether it's taking a week off, something happens in your life, or you're busy with service. That can ruin that sales funnel because unless you start to build that up, and it takes several months, 90 days plus, to build it to the top and have it overflow to where now you can be a little bit pickier on the person you're talking to and focus more on the quality of it instead of the quantity. There's kind of a mix there. So don't let the things distract you. It's always focusing on income producing activities when you first start off as a new agent. The second piece, which is part of that, is the massive activity. You just have to constantly have a step going forward. What I mean by that is not just filling the hopper or the sales funnel, is to get those, once somebody's in there, you're going to find you may buy a lead or get a referral or whatever the case is, and you try dialing them once and they don't pick up, and then you move on to the next one. That's not going to work. In the insurance industry, you got to remember that's very much needed. Most people don't understand it, and they were never taught what it is. So you're essentially begging somebody to get their attention or getting their attention in your own way, to show them the benefits that they have and how you can prepare them for anything that could come up. In order to do that, you have to have massive activity. One thing that we've learned in the agency that I work with is that if you have a lead, you're not just going to call them once and let that go. You're going to dial them 3 to 5 times on that first day. And this is what I mean by massive activity. The second day, you're going to call them in the morning, you're going to call them at night. The third day, you're going to call them again. The fourth day, you're going to call them again. You're eventually going to call a lead up to 10 to 15 times in the first month that you have them. Even after that, when you've run out of other activity, in case you're not buying leads or purchasing new ones or you just don't have enough, you're going to keep them as backup. So maybe once a month you do call that person, or maybe once a year you put them in that file that you knew that they were shopping around at that time, and you're going to do a little bit more grinding, the number one piece, to get that activity, number 2, the massive activity going to fill that sales funnel. Because once again, that funnel's not full and it's not from different revenues or avenues that are income producing projects, you're not going to have a success that we have. The third piece, when you've done all that activity, you've essentially started to fill that hopper, is you need to focus not just on what most people do, which is the easy route. They just buy leads. And that's great and that works. There's just not enough money unless you have, once again, several $100,000 to dive into it. You may be new and you're doing it on your own and you have 10 grand. That's great. You can spend $1,000 a month. That'll get you 10 months. You have a little bit of revenue come back into the business. But when you're purchasing leads, you have to look at not the cost of the lead, which is typically anywhere from $1 all the way up to $30 or more. So when you're buying those leads, you've got to remember that you're looking at the longevity of the lead. How long can a customer stay with me? Let's just assume, since you're new, that it's 3 years. You've retained them for 3 years or more. But what's the value of having that lead for that long? How much am I going to pay to keep that person in my agency for that 3-year period? So you have to reinvest that to build that hopper, so to speak. What I also recommend is we focus on the higher converting pieces, because when you're buying leads, that activity, that 15 dials a day, takes up time, it takes up energy, and it takes up finances. So to do that, it's a low converting portion. If you're converting at an 8%, which is actually not bad, or lower, then you need to work on either upping your skill or your level, or buying better leads or different leads that give you the more contact. Could be a contact issue. Or what I would recommend is the third part is start digging into center of influences. We call those COIs. Work with mortgage brokers, anyone that is in the industry around home insurance and some auto. A lot of people jump right at the dealerships, and those can work out, but most of the time the dealerships are looking for the people that they can just quickly get in, sell them a car, move on. The finance advisor there isn't necessarily looking to switch their insurance because they just want them to insure the car and then move off the lot. When you're dealing with mortgage brokers, they get a huge benefit, especially if you're an independent agent and you're working with multiple companies. That mortgage broker has a benefit if you work with 3 or more companies, let's say 10 or even 12, which is kind of high. We work with 17, but when you work with that many, you have all those options for that mortgage broker to get that extra benefit to their customer, mainly because they have time. You got to remember, the guy at the dealership, he's hopefully in and out that same day, bought the car, finance is done. Here's your insurance. Who's your insurance? Let's just add this to your policy. Okay, there you go. Versus the mortgage person, it's going to take a couple weeks. They're going to finesse and make sure they get your credit scoring correct, and they've got it perfectly so that you can get the lowest APR for the next 30, 15, whatever the case is, years, and it's going to be a great fit. We're going to essentially financially work with you. Where they run into problems is typically a mortgage broker may run into the debt to income ratio is too high. I need to lower their debt by 5%, which could be you saving them money on their insurance. So you're going to be that first phone call. Plus, if they work with you, it's easier for them to get the data, get the policy, everything's done on time. You're not dealing with 10 different agents as a mortgage broker, and you're not chasing people. You've got one guy you can go to, you can always count on him, and 70% of that time, you should be selling those policies when you're talking to those customers. So the long story short, get a COI. It's a huge benefit to you filling that hopper, because that focused time that you invest is going to convert a way higher rate than buying the leads over and over and dialing. And the fourth piece is consistency. This is, once again, we've opened up our blinders. Now we need to put them back down and just focus. If it's not income producing or income saving, you shouldn't be focusing on it. Now, there's a lot of things that are going to happen, especially if you're the owner of an agency versus working for an agency. If you're working for an agency, you can skip number 4. You just focus on being consistent with everything that you're doing. Take the leads, call them, do the 15 dials, do the COIs, connect, build that brand around you so you're the person to go to that pulls in that business, that creates value for you as the agent. If you're the owner, same thing, you're building the brand around your business and you, but you also need to focus on those activities that are income producing. And you're going to have a lot of stuff pop up. You're going to have claims calls. You're going to have people switching out cars. You're going to have all these different things that are going to take your attention. Maybe the Chamber of Commerce wants to do a meeting and they're inviting you to it. And so you're going to have a luncheon here, and you're going to have all these things that can turn into getting COIs and all of that stuff. But some of them just don't work out. And you have to really make sure that you're not breaking that path to where you're getting new center of influences, you're working the leads that you have, and you're just focusing on what it is that's going to push your business forward. Eventually, you're going to need to hire other people to duplicate what you're doing. So when you go down that path, you can show them the things that helped you get there, not necessarily just put them in the seat and say, good luck. I made it. I hope you do too. If this was helpful, you guys definitely want to check out my next video. Definitely hit the subscribe button. Turn the bell icon on so you don't miss that video. Otherwise, I'm Mark W. Flockhart. I'll see you soon.